But before we get in, a quick warning. This video is for entertainment purposes only. What happens when a Hollywood legend, someone whose name is synonymous with cinematic brilliance, sits down for a seemingly routine interview, only to be ambushed on live TV? Buckle up, because you're about to bear witness to one of the most incendiary moments in modern television, where iconic Al Pacino is pushed to his breaking point, storming off mid-interview. But before we get into the chaos, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the conversation down in the comments. Have you ever seen a celebrity interview spiral completely out of control? You won't want to miss 1 second of this story, because this is the kind of drama that is impossible to forget. It was supposed to be a routine promotional stop for Al Pacino, the iconic star of films like The Godfather and Scarface on The View. He was there to discuss his latest film. In his 80s now, Pacino is known for his incandescent energy on screen and his consummate professionalism off it. Confronted with thousands of interviews over decades, he's handled everything from in-depth discussions of cinema to light-hearted talk show banter with Elon. But today was different. The instant he stepped onto the stage, there was a sharp, almost electric tension in the air. The pre-show pleasantries felt terribly hollow, and Pacino picked up on it right away. Co-host Joy Behar, infamous for her sharp tongue and political jabs, would make sure this was no ordinary interview. That much was apparent from her very first question, when it became clear she did have an agenda. "Al," Joy started off, with a grin that felt more predatory than friendly, "let's talk about your new film. But first, do you regret glorifying violence in movies like Scarface? Shouldn't Hollywood take some responsibility for its influence on society?" Pacino was taken aback. He paused, his eyes narrowing ever so slightly, a blink-is-it sign that the estimable actor was girding his loins. "Well, Joy," he said evenly but firmly, "that's quite a loaded way to begin an interview. I have always felt that film is about the human condition, including the darker aspects. We are storytellers, not moral judges." Joy wasn't backing down. "But think about all those kids who wanted to be Tony Montana. Don't you feel any responsibility?" The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't what anyone signed up for. Whoopi Goldberg tried to steer the conversation back toward Pacino's craft, but Joy talked over her sharply. "No, let him answer. This is important," she pressed, wafting her hand at her colleague. And then there was Pacino's legendary intensity. "I owe the public nothing but my honest performance," he said, jaw tight. "Every character I play is done with dedication and respect. If you want a philosophical debate about art and society, fine. But this isn't that. This feels more like an ambush than an interview." Joy shot back, her voice rising. "Oh, so I'm interrogating you now? I'm just asking questions about your career." Pacino hunched forward, his tone sharp and explicitly clear. "It's obvious you're more interested in creating a controversy than in conducting an interview. I've been in this business for over 50 years. I know the difference between an interview and an inquisition." The tension in the studio was palpable. Camera operators shifted nervously, and the other hosts looked like they wished they could disappear. But Joy wasn't finished. The stage was set for one of the most unforgettable exchanges in talk show history, and viewers everywhere would soon be witnessing it all unfold. The tension in the studio had reached a fever pitch. "If you're too fragile to handle that, maybe this business isn't for you anymore," Pacino said, his voice calm but loaded with authority. The room fell into a deafening silence, broken only by the faint hum of the broadcast equipment. For a long, heavy moment, he held Joy Behar's gaze, and in that pause, everyone knew the ground had shifted. This wasn't just an awkward interview anymore. This was becoming a defining moment. "Listen, lady," Pacino continued, low and resonant, carrying the weight of decades in Hollywood. "I've been answering questions about my work long before you even had a job in television. But there's a world of difference between asking a question and showing outright disrespect. Joy's face flushed deep red. Disrespectful for asking about the real-world impact of your films? That's my job, Al. Maybe inside your Hollywood bubble, everyone's just telling you how brilliant you are, but out here, in the real world, we ask the hard questions. Pacino's eyebrows lifted, a mixture of disbelief and steel in his eyes. You really believe sitting behind this table makes you more in touch with the real world than an artist that has spent 50 years chronicling real lives, real pain, and the human experience? Joy snapped back, relentless. And frankly, I see a lot that's problematic with the very films you've built your career on. The other hosts scrambled, trying to regain control. Sarah Haynes tried to pivot to his upcoming projects, but Joy cut her off with a harsh gesture. No, we are finishing this. I am not finished, Al. You've been dodging my questions. Pacino's face hardened, the fabled intensity rising to the surface. I have not dodged anything. I have answered every question you've put to me. The problem is my responses don't conform to the script that you have in your mind. Your so-called questions are little more than dressed-up Hollywood spin. Joy's voice came out low and icy as she continued to lean in closer. Let me make one thing very clear. How do you sleep at night knowing your romanticized portrayals of gangsters and criminals have inspired real violence? How many lives have been lost because someone thought being Tony Montana was cool? The accusation exploded in the studio. Even a show accustomed to fiery debates had been caught off guard. Whoopi Goldberg looked thoroughly flabbergasted. Producers in the control room were scrambling in panic, and camera operators were shifting nervously. Pacino, coiled with tension, responded with measured but cutting force. That is not just unfair, Joy. That is profoundly irresponsible. You are holding me accountable for acts of violence I have no connection to. That's not journalism. That's a public takedown of my reputation. The sharpness of Joy's laugh cut through the chill in the room. Oh, so now I'm tearing down your character? I'm merely asking you to take responsibility for the shadow your work has cast. But I suppose that's too much for a man who's spent decades sealed away in his ivory tower. Ivory tower? Pacino's voice cracked like a whip for the first time in the exchange. A flash of the legendary temper fans had long feared. Lady, I grew up in the Bronx. I've witnessed real struggle, and I don't portray it as amusement. Every character that I have portrayed went through consequences. Every story had weight to tell. If you can't see that, then you have no idea what you are talking about. Joy poked a finger at him, her expression unwavering. Don't lecture me about understanding, Al. I've been on the front lines of real-world events while you've been playing make-believe. And I know films like yours can feed into real-world consequences. The other hosts were scrambling, desperate to regain control. One tried to pivot with a question about his craft, but Joy cut through them like a predator. We are having a vital conversation here, she declared, eyes locked on Pacino. This is the reckoning that Hollywood elites need. Those who think they're beyond reproach. Beyond reproach? Pacino's voice now had a low, dangerous hum to it. I've been through criticism my whole career and taken something from it. But there is a world of difference between that honest criticism and whatever this is. You came on this set with a verdict reached. You've had no interest in anything I might say. My only verdict, Joy proclaimed, her tone courtroom sharp, is holding powerful men accountable. Pacino leaned forward, tension radiating from every muscle, his knuckles gripping the chair tightly. You know nothing of my world, he said, his voice tight, dangerous, and unforgettable. You know nothing about years of grit, absolute devotion to the craft, or deep respect I consider for both this art and the people who watch it, Pacino said, his voice actually shaking with controlled fury. You painted a picture of me before I even spoke a word. I painted it based on 50 years of your films, Joy shot back, each word precise and unflinching. And the portrait I see is of a man who built a fortune, romanticizing everything fractured about masculinity in this nation. There was a chilling silence in the studio. Cameras softly clicked, the only sound to be heard. The crew froze. The audience gasped. This was the on-air dismantling of a living legend. Slowly, Pacino shook his head. When he finally spoke, it was a low, coiled growl. "Joy, I have met all kinds in this business, the good, the bad, the ones just trying to make a paycheck. But rarely have I met anyone so breathlessly intent on tearing down another human being out of self-importance." "My self-importance?" Joy's voice quavered slightly, but she forged ahead. "This has nothing to do with me. This is about accountability, a concept that your generation seems to fundamentally misunderstand." "My generation?" Pacino's eyes blazed with fire. "My generation forged this very industry. We told the stories. We shouldered the risks. We cut the path for every single person who followed. And you have the audacity to lecture me about accountability?" "Yes, I do," Joy answered, chin high, defiance etched on her face. "Because it's necessary. Someone has to ask the hard questions that every other journalist in Hollywood is too starstruck to even consider. Tough questions." Pacino let out a laugh, hollow and cold. "You consider ambushing me with groundless accusations about the world's ills tough? That isn't journalism. Joy, that's cruelty for sport." Efforts at intervention proved futile. Alyssa Farah Griffin attempted to turn the conversation toward his charity work, but Joy would have none of it. Unstoppable. "Don't change the subject. We are discussing the cultural footprint of violent media, and I demand to know why Al Pacino believes he's exempt from that conversation." "I don't want to be exempt." Pacino's voice rose, tight with constrained indignation. "I want an honest dialogue, but that's clearly not what you came here for. You've already convicted me in your mind, and no truth I offer will ever penetrate that judgment. Maybe that's because what you represent is a cancer in the middle of Hollywood." Joy pressed, relentless. The old guard and their love of violence, toxic masculinity, all wrapped up in gold statues and cheers. Pacino held her gaze, a long, heavy pause stretching between them. Then a shift, a calm, almost pitying look replacing his rage. "Joy," he said, voice unnervingly serene. "I came here to discuss my work, to share a piece of it, maybe even enjoy myself. I have sat for thousands of interviews and always maintained respect, even when the questions were sharp. But this isn't an interview anymore. This is the sound of a powerful man being challenged and not liking it." The smug smile surfaced on Joy's face. She knew she had won. "This is the entitled attitude I'm describing," she said. Pacino's face hardened into an expression no one in the studio had ever seen before. A profound mix of disappointment and resignation. "Entitled," he repeated, his mouth tasting the word like poison. "Joy, I need you to listen. I've poured my entire existence into this craft. I've dissected every character, breathed their air, delivered truth in every role. Never once did I ask for preferential treatment. Never once shied from a difficult conversation. But what you are doing right now is not journalism. It's public harassment." "Harassment?" Joy scoffed incredulously. "For asking questions about your movies? Please, Al. This is Hollywood privilege. The second you face a real question, you cry foul." "A real question?" Pacino's voice dropped lower. The room electrified. "Let me educate you. A real question is about my methods, the moral tightrope of portraying difficult men, the responsibility I feel as an artist, my evolution over decades. Not a personal crusade to pin society's demons on me for reasons that have nothing to do with me." The studio was tense. Whoopi Goldberg tried one last time to redirect, but Joy was a hurricane. "We are not changing the subject. I want an answer, Al. Do you believe your films steeped in conflict have left a negative mark on our culture?" Slowly, Pacino shut his eyes. When he opened them again, there was only profound, resigned sadness. "Are you certain you want the answer to that question?" he asked. "Yes," said Joy, triumphant. "Then here it is," Pacino said, his tone grave, unwavering. "I believe that true art, real art, is a mirror held up to society. And sometimes that mirror reflects images we would rather not confront. The men I've portrayed are not heroes," Pacino said, his voice deliberate, each word weighted with decades of experience. "They are cautionary tales. Tony Montana doesn't find joy. He finds ruin alone. Michael Corleone doesn't discover peace. He discovers a soul-crushing emptiness. These are not glamorous endings. They are tragedies." Joy immediately cut him off. "But people don't see them that way." "Some don't," Pacino conceded, patience thinning. "But that's not the fault of the art. It is the fault of them who choose to ignore the message. Should we stop telling stories about hard realities just because some misinterpret them? Should all our films be about puppies and rainbows?" "Don't be absurd," snapped Joy. "No, Joy, you are absurd," Pacino shot back, his voice staccato, replete with contained outrage. "You are asking me to accept blame for what casual people bring to my work. That's like blaming Shakespeare for every evil act that erupts in Macbeth." Joy's face flushed crimson. "Do not compare yourself to Shakespeare. That is the arrogance I'm talking about." "I am not comparing myself to Shakespeare," Pacino said, his patience now a brittle facade. "I am making a point about artistic responsibility. But you have no interest in understanding it. Your goal is attack, not dialogue." "I want honesty," Joy shot back, defiant. "Something Hollywood seems to lack these days." "You want honesty?" Pacino's voice snapped back, steel sharper than ever. "Fine. Here it is. This is without question the most unprofessional interview I've ever had to endure. I've been shown more courtesy by paparazzi hiding in bushes than I've been shown here today." "Oh, boo-hoo," Joy sneered, her voice just dripping with sarcasm. "The great movie star isn't being treated like royalty. Welcome to the real world, Al." And in that moment, the studio collectively knew that a line had been crossed. Pacino slowly stood up, his slow action draining what was left of the air in that room. "You know what, Joy?" he said, cold and precise. "I've been in this business over 50 years. I've worked with the best directors, actors, and writers of different generations. I've taken criticism from those who knew what they were talking about. And I learned from all of it. But I have never been treated with such deep disrespect from someone purporting to be a fellow professional." Joy attempted to intercede. "If you can't handle the heat," but before she could get another word in edgewise, Pacino raised a hand, silencing her instantly. "No, you are finished speaking. I listened to you. Now you will listen to me. I came here as an invited guest, with respect for this show and its audience. I came prepared to engage in a genuine conversation about my work, my life, and my experiences. Instead, you chose to use me as a public target for whatever grievances you harbor against the entertainment industry." The studio fell into a tense silence. Even Joy seemed momentarily frozen by the controlled fire in his voice. "I don't know what happened in your life to fill you with such bitterness," Pacino pressed on, clinical but cutting. "And frankly, it doesn't concern me. But I will not sit here and allow you to project it onto me. I have been nothing but professional. You have been nothing but hostile. And I am done with it." Joy scrambled to respond, her voice sharp with indignation. "So you're just going to run away? Like every other Hollywood prima donna who can't take criticism?" Pacino smiled, but it was cold and razor-thin. There was no warmth, the kind of smile that makes a room go cold. "Criticism? Is that what you call this, Joy?" Pacino's voice was cold, calm, and deadly, each word measured out by decades of earned authority. "I have been critiqued by the sharpest, most gifted minds in the world, and I have cherished it because it forced me to be better. But this is not criticism. This is cruelty. And life is far too short to waste a single moment on cruel people. He started to unclip his microphone, and a wave of panic rippled through the production crew. "Al, please," Whoopi Goldberg pleaded, as if she was begging. "Don't go. We can start over." Pacino turned to her, and for an instant, his face softened with genuine warmth. "Whoopi, you are a class act. You always have been. But I cannot continue this. I will not continue this." Joy, realizing the gravity of her miscalculation, made one final, desperate effort to regain control. "Very well. Go on, leave. Show the world what you're really made of." Pacino stopped, mic in hand, his eyes locked on her a last time. "You want to know what I'm made of?" His voice boomed like steel. "I'm made of 50 years of relentless work, unwavering dedication, and deep respect for my craft and my colleagues. I'm made of thousands of hours of study, preparation, and giving every ounce of myself to every role. I'm made of a deep love for the art of telling stories, and for the people who watch our films. And I am made of enough self-respect to know when to walk away from someone who doesn't deserve another second of my time." With that, he handed his microphone to a stunned production assistant and headed for the exit. "This is live television, Al," Joy cried, her voice a desperate plea into the void. "You can't just walk out." He stopped at the edge of the set and wheeled around for one final, piercing glance. "Watch me." And so, with those two words, one of Hollywood's most lauded actors walked right off the set of The View, leaving behind a shell-shocked studio audience, mortified co-hosts, and one furiously red-faced Joy Behar, who just learned the hard way what happens when you push a legend to their breaking point. The cameras kept rolling, capturing the hosts flailing to fill the space, but no words could clear what the world was seeing. It was a masterclass in dignity under fire, and how respect is a courtesy to be given, not a tribute to be demanded. What do you think of that unforgettable confrontation? Have you ever seen a celebrity interview blow up in such an extraordinary manner? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want more unbelievable true stories like this, be sure to subscribe.